Hello everyone and welcome to the Deep Blue Renegade podcast. My name is Molly, also known as the Deep Blue Renegade, and I'd like to welcome you guys to episode 33. Today is Tuesday, March 11th, 2014. And now I need to move the stupid webcam controller thing. I like being able to see myself, and it's hard when it is exactly in the way. So, it's been a week. And obviously enough, I have a really exciting announcement to share with you guys. Emily of the What Just Watchin' podcast and I are going to be doing a joint knit-along in the months of April and May. And so the idea behind this knit-along is, it's called the Everything Old Cal. And I wanted to maybe take a little bit of time at the beginning of the episode to maybe explain the spirit of the Cal. So as I think we've all sort of figured out, it sometimes takes you a long time to get around to something. I was actually talking with my friend Joyoti Sunday about it, and it was the case where it's just the case where she has some very, very old unfinished objects. Basically sort of at that interface between when she had learned how to knit and when she'd become a knitter with a capital K. if that makes any sense to you guys. I would say, so for her that was back in 2007. For me, I would have to say it was somewhere around 2009 when I started to, or when I became a sock knitter. I think the K went from lowercase to capital at that point. And so, as a result, I think when you sort of make that transition, some things get left behind. So I know that what Joyoti's planning on doing is to take her, she's going to take the oldest unfinished object she intends to finish and knit it for the Cal, if that makes sense. So she has one leg warmer, but she needs to finish that second leg warmer, so it's sort of like second sock syndrome, but not quite. And it's the case where you're like, this is beautiful yarn, this is a lovely project, why isn't it done? Obviously, I can't do that sort of thing. My oldest unfinished object is from January. So you can understand, like, it's in the spirit of the Cal would be, we're talking anything old. Now, what this means could be, for example, sorry guys, where there's a fly around here. It's actually 60 today, it's sort of ridiculous. So in the spirit of the Cal, it could be your oldest luxury skein. It could be your oldest obligation project. Let me fiddle for a moment. Crinkle, crinkle, crinkle. So, in terms of oldest obligation project, I told my mother-in-law I was going to spin this for her. Obviously, I have not started. So, sorry about all the crinkling, guys. So it would be the case where it's something that you've intended to do, and this Cal is an opportunity to get around to it. So, what would be other things that qualify? I would say, what is it? So, or maybe we should rotate around and look at my stash. So we're actually back in the stash room today. Bright light. Sorry. Alright, we're looking at my stash. And then we shall tilt down slightly. So, what we have here on this shelf would be the bag of lace weight. And so what's going on here is that, let's say, for example, you're saving this skein, this really special skein. For example, the 50% yak, 50% silk, and you're like, ooh, and you're waiting for the right time to start a project, now's the time. You can start something with your oldest luxury skein. I do have finer weight yarns that perhaps have been around a little bit longer, but they're not nearly as luxury as yak silk. So something like that. Say for example you wanted to use, let's say for qualify for a second, your oldest cold den hen or your oldest skein of wool mysa. So it'll be the case where, I don't remember off the top of my head, it's either this one or this one is probably the oldest one that I haven't broken into yet. So maybe this is a case where I could break into this skein of wool mysa and then maybe knit a pattern from my oldest knitting book. So it'd be this is my first knitting book, Sock Innovation by Cookie A. I didn't start in a tame way. So say for example, let me flip to a pattern because I've realized I really want to knit this and I couldn't tell from the picture because it's so dark. So let's say for example I want to knit with my oldest unopened skein of wool mysa, the Vilai pattern. I believe that's how you say it, by Cookie A. So this is from the oldest book of patterns I own. But let's think for a second here. What else qualifies as old? Something vintage. So maybe you have a vintage sweater pattern or a vintage sock pattern that you'd be really interested in knitting. I think that would also qualify in the spirit of anything old. Let's see, what other things would fly? Say for example, I don't have any to show you today. Well, so when I'd initially come up with the idea of the oldest sweater quantity or the oldest sock yarn, in terms of the oldest skein of sock yarn in my stash, and this would also count as the oldest gift, let me find it, is I actually have two skeins that I had gotten from my mother-in-law back in 2010 or 2011. I don't remember off the top of my head. So I have these two skeins of mountain colors that I haven't had a chance to get around to yet, though I really would like to. And it's a case where this is, it's pretty thick for a finger weight. It has a nice tight twist and some really gorgeous colors. So why haven't I gotten around to it yet? So this probably counts as whatever. So some of the oldest stuff in my stash. Another thing that you can think of. So I would say at this point a lot of my stash is fingering weight, which is why I tend to keep a little closer tabs on it. So what would it be? But it's the case where I ended up getting a message from my sister who is in Buffalo, New York. And it was the case where she ended up losing her headband. So I had made the headband as a Christmas present, I believe. Oh, that was probably December 2009. And my enabler, Joni, had given me a lovely, or several skeins of alpaca merino blend, and so then I had turned them into presents for my sisters. So I knit them matching headbands because they're identical twins in different colors. They're pretty serious about that sort of thing, about not being totally matchy-matchy. So there was a pair of mittens that I had knit for myself that I ended up deciding to frog because I have a pair of mittens to end all mittens. So this is yarn from 2009 that needs a new project, and this is actually probably the same colorway that I had knit my sister's headband in, so I could knit her another headband, though it will probably be too late for Buffalo winter. So there are a lot of angles that you can take, and the idea is that you justify it, right? So if you're like, if you get a little bit too specific, you know, it probably isn't in the spirit of the cow. But obviously cheater friendly, because you'll be knitting what you intend to knit or had intended to knit but haven't done yet. And actually I'm going to have to pause for a second and I'll be right back. So we'll see you back at the chair. Okay, I'm back. So another thing that I had neglected to mention in the brief tour was, so this could be spinning fiber, knitting a pattern, using some stash, and in order for your finished object, or long finished, or long unfinished, or long-standing unfinished objects, and in order to qualify for prizes, which I still need to work on getting them, but that's no big deal, is that you have to justify how it's old. And obviously you can get creative because, well, I think that Emma and I can both agree that we're not too keen on, what is it, rules and regulations and all that other stuff. We want to be fun. We want you to finally get around to something. And as you can tell by my little tour, there are many options. So I'm going to have to think hard about what I want to do in April. In terms of maximizing, in terms of maximizing the what is it? The synergy between cows, and that would be the other thing. Quintuple dip if you feel like it. Excuse me. It's just been one of those days. So in order to maximize my cal, sal sorts of things, it would be the case where probably doing the obligation spin would make a lot of sense, because A, it would make my enabler Joni happy. B, it's already in my spin the bin challenge for completely twisted and arbitrary. And does merino silk. Merino silk is awesome. So probably what wouldn't qualify would be if something is more towards the newest side, if that makes sense. For example, my camel silk might be my oldest luxury fiber, but it's also my newest luxury fiber. Or along those lines. And maybe you could come up with something crazy like knitting with vintage needles, or like find a way to justify it. And then the other thing is that with any knit along, chitter chatter and participation and all that other stuff is really encouraged. We don't want you showing up at the end and be like, hey, look, things. So this is actually something that I'll do for the finished object thread in my group, is that, like, I'd ask that you link to two posts that were in the group, in terms of either in the Cal thread, which I'll be creating at some point, and maybe we can brainstorm projects and justifications and all that other fun stuff. But it just makes sure that the people who are entering in for prizes are also participating, because that's half the fun in a knit along, is that you're interacting with people. So that is maybe the somewhat brief 15-minute explanation of the anything old knit along, and I'm really hoping that you join us, because it will be quite a bit of fun. What would it be? So, in terms of this week, or what is it? It's just been a very crazy and very long day for me today. So remembering all the things I want to talk about is taking a little bit longer than normal. So I I suppose I have no finished objects, so I will show you my work in progress. I'm still working on the Bojas, but I do believe that I will be able to finish it in time for the Fingering Weight February Cal, which Fingering Weight February ends the 15th of March, which is this Friday. And I am actually on the ribbing, which is very exciting. I ended up getting a lot of sweater knit this weekend, so as I mentioned earlier, Jyoti came over and we ended up knitting and chatting for a couple of hours, which was lovely. And so I was able to get quite a bit done. I was also watching a new to me podcast. I got invited to the Homespun House podcast several months ago, and I finally found some time to sit down and watch episodes. So I have to, or what is it? So the host is Molly, so another Molly, so you have that fraternity there. And what is it? So she is originally from Wisconsin, but now lives in Germany. So it's so I think I'm on episode 5 of 7, I believe, or something like that. So it's been interesting watching her, and look forward to getting all caught up. So that was also good Bojas knitting time, because it's sort of the case where, obviously enough, it's not very exciting knitting twisted rib. And I will have plenty of yarn. I'm probably not actually going to use all of my skein. Obviously this is pretty deflated at this point. I've just been center pulling. So this is how much I have left, which is going to be more than enough to finish. I believe it's the case where, because the yoke was so much longer in the wild apples pattern than the Dean pattern, it'd be the case where I'm actually, I don't know what I would do with the leftovers. I guess it's the case where this is a really handy dark color, which is not black. So this very, very dark brown. It'd be the case where if you actually put it up against black, it's really hard to see the difference between them, but no big deal to me. What was it? My parents also came to visit this weekend. They were passing through on their way back from Florida, and my mom was so surprised that I was knitting a brown thing. So perhaps she thinks that my color taste has become more sophisticated than blue. Oh well, whatever. So it will be very exciting to finish this in time for spring. And it's looking pretty likely at this point. Hopefully there'll be some good knitting time the next few days, and I'll be able to churn through to the end. And I don't think I'll do something sneaky like bind off and then rip it back out and knit some more, because that would be a lot more work. Oh, silliness. Just to qualify for the knit along. So that's the story there, is that it's continuing on. It's still my only work in progress as far as knitting is concerned, and it goes with me wherever I go, which is many places. So at least at this point it's very mindless knitting. See, knitting on the podcast. So what is it? So at this point I probably, we can quantify this without too much effort. Is so on my on the sleeves I end up having 3 inches of twisted rib. Yeah. Excuse me. On this I am pretty much at 1 1/4, so I would say I either have 3/4 of an inch or 1 3/4 of an inch left to go. It just sort of depends on if I try it on, I look at it like, oh my gosh, that's way too long. I pulled out my original Bojas and sort of figured out where it was falling and if that was going to be in the right place. So this one's going to be longer than my first one, but that has a lot to do with the fact that on the first one I had to stop because I ran out of yarn. Or I ran out of the main color, and that was the end of the train for that. So, no big deal. No big deal there. I'm not too worried. So I think that I'll be able to finish, and then I'll be able to move on to a different project. I don't know if I feel so optimistic that I'll be carrying around that different project with me in the meantime, in hopes of finishing this at some point. Like, maybe it turns out that tonight there's tons of time to knit. Who knows? I've been, or what is it? It's the case where I'm quite tired today, so I might only be good for vegetating right now. Who knows? So the next thing that I would like to talk about, if I'm to do things somewhat in order, is spinning. And it looks like I'll have to reach a little bit in order to get at that. I guess I can put down the bohas. I might only be good for knitting the bohas tonight. So, it's not too far away. So I ended up getting some spinning done this week. So this is where I am on the Fat Cat Knits Variegated BFL. And I haven't weighed it recently. It seems that the size of the ball is quite large, so so I might still be pretty far away from getting this 3 ounces done, but the only way that something gets done is when you work on it, so I've been working on it. And it's been, I would say, like, I know that some people really like to get up early in the morning and spin. I think I'm the sort where I really enjoy spinning before I go to bed. It's just something very zen for me to do. And right now I'm in a orange run, so it's pretty vivid right now. And in terms of the size of the ball, this is what we're talking about right now. So it is smaller than my head, which is a good thing. And I've just been running through how much more. I'm not to halfway, that's for sure. So let's see how much more of this strip. Quite a bit more of this strip. So there's still a lot of spinning left to go before I'm even, I believe, to the halfway point on this. And this one should be much closer in terms of those milestones and stuff like that, which is cool. So that is the story there. And I would really like to get this closer to completion. Maybe even finish it before the next spin along, because this spindle here will be occupied until I get it off. So it makes sense. Get it off the spindle. Go, go, go. So it'll be the case where it's gonna live in an obvious place, and then I can pick it up and spin, spin, spin for a while, maybe get through a color repeat or two, and then put it down or go to bed or something like that. Because as the first rule of grad school is that things only get done when you work on them. So fiber will only get spun when you spin fiber. It's a good one. And it's definitely the case where I want to demonstrate that I am spinning and going through fiber and stuff like that, because obviously a wheel is a big investment, and especially designing a wheel is a big investment in time and money. So I want to reassure the Dear Sweet Level 1 that I am, in fact, moving forward. So the next thing I want to, because I showed you guys earlier that I'm probably going to be starting the Merino Silk Braid in April for the Anything Old Cap. So we have moved on to the stash position section. And I'm going to blame Winter. Winter, I hate you. So this is not all of the things that I bought last week because I hate winter, but it is a good portion. The first thing is a skein of wool miso lace in what would it be? This would be pronounced as Versuch Attention. Sorry, that was slaughtering German. So that word in German, I think my American counterparts just tend to call it Versuch. And what it boils down to is that I think it basically means random, and it's the case where, oh, it looks so dark on the screen right now. This is not the darkest skein of Will My Soleil that I've gone before, but basically it means that it's not a named colorway. And this is, how would I describe it? This is a dark blue but not a navy, so not maybe a dark navy but maybe more of a medium-ish navy. And there's some hints of purple in it, which really isn't coming off in the screen. And I don't know, it's the case where daylight is waning quickly even despite daylight savings time. So I picked this up for a fantastic price. That would be the short answer, is that it was a fantastic price and blue, which is oftentimes all I need in order to justify another skein of this. Which means that in my quest to decrease the amount of mileage in my yarn, I just bought a mile of yarn. Whoops. So it is quite gorgeous. I do not have a project in mind for it. I just ended up finding the package when I got back home today, so my husband also knows that I got a skein of Will My Soleil. Whoops. And this is 344 grams, which is pretty heavy. This is more than a mile. Oops. So, in terms of stash bussing by knitting my Will My Soleil, I think it's just the case where when you use Will My Soleil, you decide you need more Will My Soleil. So hopefully I can get some good pictures of this, and I'll end up putting it up on my stash page. I'm quite excited with it because it was a great price and a great color, so how could you go wrong? And I already like Will My Soleil. The other thing that I have is a lovely, lovely braid of fiber. And I don't know what it is about silk, but when you have a braid of fiber with significant silk content, it seems just to take way less space than maybe one with 100% wool content to it. Shine. How do we minimize the shine? There we go. So this is Pigeon Roof Studios, and this is the January Club. This might be the January, I'm not sure what year in January it is. And this is a new to me dyer. I've heard wonderful things. The Completely Twisted and Arbitrary group is having a spin along with her right now. And this is 70% superwash merino and 30% silk. I got this in a D-stash, and the price was right. And I apparently was weak. So to describe the colors, there's some maroon, some violet, brown, and then a decent amount of white. So I'm curious about how this is going to spin up. It's definitely going to be more of a variegated braid. It is quite soft and feels divine. A little bit was sticking out of the package when I got it, so it will definitely be very, very exciting to spin this. But there are several things that are ahead in line with it. For example, the fiber optic gradient that I will get to sooner than this, but I'm definitely very excited with this purchase. So I'm trying to figure out, because it does have a very high silk content, it felt very, very luxurious, so I'm excited. So that is it for Stashquisitions this week. Throw this back on the table. Oh, the other thing was something that I didn't get to show you last week. And once again, it was sort of something where I wish there was Feel-O-Vision. So this was my prize for participating in the Ravelnet games. This is, oh, I even have the description, so I described it last week. So it's a mini sock blocker with significant gold sparkle content and a little trophy. I'm a winner! Yay! And a very small skein of Tanis Fiber Arts purple label. What's this next stuff? So this is the cashmere merino, maybe it has nylon, I don't remember, base in a gold color, which obviously enough I don't tend to gravitate towards gold, but I won't complain if that makes any sense. It was a lovely prize. And the sock blocker was actually made by Meg Bakewell's husband, and that Meg Bakewell is the mind behind the wee teeny sock patterns. Some are free and some for sale. They're all an adorable explosion, for lack of a better word. And what I'll probably do is just make one of the free patterns. It's just the case where it takes an awful lot for me to purchase a pattern, for whatever reason. It tends to be easier to justify a book than it is an individual pattern purchase, especially for a sock, even more so for a mini sock. So that's just a hard sell for me. You could probably have different ideas. Oh, it is a merino cashmere nylon. And I ate the candy already because it was delicious. Candy is delicious. So let's see, were there other things that I wanted to talk about? Covered spinning, covered the knit along, covered Stashquisitions, and probably the last thing that I'd like to cover is that it's looking very, very doubtful for the Knitting Pipeline Retreat. I have already received the prepare yourself for disappointment email. So while it is, still quite possible, or what was it, I was 4th on the waiting list this week and the week before, so it could turn out that there are last minute cancellations, but I've already been prepared for disappointment. So as much as I would really love to be able to come, now or in the future, it's looking bad. So, what is it? So, as a result, I ended up, I came up with a really cool idea for my engineering graduate student knitter group. We are, what is it? There's probably, I don't know, 15 of us, which you would think, or it just surprises me sometimes that there's so many of us. You would think that we'd be a pretty exclusive group, being engineering graduate students who knit. So I'll be hosting Crafty Night, which you guys feel free to take the idea. The idea is that I ended up doing a doodle poll to try to figure out how to maximize the number of people who could come, so we're going to have, it's going to start around dinner time, we're going to have a potluck, and then we're going to watch Twilight movies with riff tracks. And just the idea being to provide a forum for hanging out and knitting with each other. And if you have a if they have a sewing machine, bring the sewing machine. The spinning wheel, bring the spinning wheel. It's just the case where set aside a couple of hours where we can just laugh and goof off and have fun and all that other cool stuff. So it's sort of, I would say that our Thursday meetings tend to be maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 2 and 2.5 hours, where I'm going to set aside a bigger block of time just to hang out, because I like them, they're cool people, and really inspiring people as well. So this would be whatever, like people like my friend Jen, who gets mentioned pretty frequently, Joydy, which some of you guys know from when we podcasted together, and then other people like Anna, for example, who I don't know, they're definitely within the core group of knitters with a capital K. So so it's quite a bit of fun, and I'm really looking forward to it. So I'll have my own mini retreat, so to speak. Though I am bummed out that I will miss my opportunity to meet with, for example, at the Knitting Pipeline retreat, to meet other podcasters. And that's what I get for procrastinating. No one can procrastinate like a grad student can. It is quite devastating. So, I should, excuse me, I guess I've been talking too much today. I should be able to record next week, so that will be Tuesday the 18th, or Tuesday, March 18th. And I really look forward to chatting with you again. I'd like to thank everyone who took the time to comment and whatever, let me know that you're a watcher. I really appreciate it. And you guys are more than welcome in the future to just say hi, because it's the case where I want to take care of you guys. And that's just the way I am, is I take care of my own. So that's just the thing there. So I look forward to seeing you next week, and happy knitting. So take care. Bye-bye.